Hey, Matrix Live. Ben here. I'm here with Travis. You might have seen him, TravisR.
Yeah,
How you doing? Where are you from and why are you here?
I usually am in Canada, specifically the Alberta region.
Okay.
I spend most of my time there, but I'm in London at the moment.
Why? What have you been doing in London?
So there was this thing called FOSDEM last weekend.
Mhm.
I came out for that, and sometimes it's good just to spend a couple of weeks to meet the rest of the team and get a little bit more work done.
So when you say the team, you work for NuVector, but you're also quite involved in lots of other Matrix.org related projects. But why don't we go back? How did you find FOSDEM? How's your trip been?
FOSDEM was pretty great.
Yeah.
I got to meet quite a lot of people.
Cool.
We tried to cross-sign a bunch of people.
Yes, we did.
I have a bunch of green shields now in my room list,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
that's
better
good.
than it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
FOSDEM's busy, right?
Oh yeah,
It's like hectic.
I'm pretty sure I missed a few people, so
Yeah.
sorry.
So how long have you been using Matrix?
I've been using Matrix for about 4 or 5 years now.
Okay. So that's most of its time, really.
Yeah. No, pretty much. Yeah, I've been working on it mostly in the bot space, particularly for makerspace sort of stuff.
Okay.
Trying to get a bunch of. First started with email notifications. We wanted email notifications to show up in our chat rooms. That way we could notify our members of what's going on.
So this is in the very early days of Matrix then.
Yeah.
So why did you just start using Matrix? I mean, surely at that time you would have been using IRC or something.
Yeah.
You converted. I mean, it's pretty early for that kind of project.
Yeah, we were looking at ways to increase our community presence within the makerspace because we were using IRC and people were trying to connect to this shell gateway thing.
Right. Okay.
And then people weren't.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the people at the makerspace just aren't.
No.
That
sure.
inclined and
Yeah,
just
yeah,
not able to use it.
No, okay.
So we wanted to find something a little bit easier.
Cool.
One of the other directors happened to come across Matrix on a Reddit thread, and
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
And
yeah, that's really early. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and then we gave it a shot and haven't given up since.
Fab, man. And you've been employed by NuVector for 2 years coming up?
Yeah, 2 years in the summer.
Coming up 2 years. All right, cool. And what do you do? I mean, do you still do bots or do you do other stuff?
Ooh, I do a lot of stuff. I'm officially on the Riot web team,
Okay.
but I tend to work a lot in the spec.
Mhm.
I do a lot of our sort of customer work behind the scenes.
Right.
And generally help out where needed. Sometimes it's in backend, sometimes it's in more front end,
Yeah.
sometimes it's more moderation.
I mean,
stuff.
this is the nature of a startup as well, is that people get spread around a lot more than their title would suggest.
Yeah.
Cool. So we know why you were originally interested, but so why would makerspaces benefit so much from Matrix?
So for one, it's open source. You can customize it to whatever you want. For instance, like our makerspaces spent a lot of time rebranding and getting rid of all the Riot logos.
Right.
And,
okay. Great. I mean,
that's our own.
that's one thing you can do with open source is white labeling stuff. Okay. Fine.
Yeah. So you can do all that. It also allows us to like for the people that are more technically inclined and sort of know what's going on behind the scenes, it allows them to say run their own home server. For instance, like I personally run my own home server and I don't use the makerspaces. I use Matrix.org.
Massive home server that you run.
Yeah, but yeah, I use my own instead of trying to figure that out. But yeah, there's
okay. So openness is the big thing. Really.
Yeah, it's the openness, and it's also just like it's pretty well polished. Like,
right. Okay.
Why would you sort of go for IRC when it's
well? I mean, I'm
like IRC is great.
Right. I mean, I don't advocate for IRC. I just know that it's a sticking point for a lot of people is to keep using IRC. Cool. So what other projects have you got going? So when you're not working on Riot Web and the spec and some of the back end, I feel like you had a lot of projects that have been spun up long before.
Yeah.
So why don't we go through some of those?
Yeah. So Dimension is probably the most known, I would say.
Okay.
Dimension is an integration manager.
What's that? What's an integration?
It allows you to manage your bridges, bots, and widgets and stuff within your rooms.
Okay.
So you can click through different buttons and stuff like that, and it just gives you a little bit more of an easier interface to sort of use this sort of stuff.
Okay. But that's not used on, say, Riot.im.
Yeah.
It's an optional extra.
Yeah. So the default Riot.im deployment uses something called Scalar, which is the proprietary thing that NuVector does.
Got it.
Dimension is a free open source alternative.
Got it. Okay, cool. And people can install that themselves. I think they can also use the some of the Ansible playbook kits
Yeah.
come with it. I don't know if it's turned on by default, but certainly it's available there.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's turned on by default, but yeah, it is easily accessible. I think it's like
Cool.
a couple flags away, and then you.
All right, cool. Maybe I'll look into doing that because I don't think I'm using it at the moment. What benefits would I get beyond the default?
So if you run a unfederated home server,
I do not.
well, yeah. If you do, then it allows you, like Dimension allows you to still use your whatever integrations,
Right.
which makes it a lot easier in that for those sorts of use cases.
Right.
Because Scalar still has to call the federation endpoints on your server.
Got it. Okay, so it stays everything on your own server for one thing.
Yeah, so everything stays on your server, and also like if you run your own IRC bridge, you know you can't plug that into Scalar.
Right. Okay.
But if you do have your own IRC network or your own bridges, or you want to make your own sticker packs, that sort of stuff, you would use something like Dimension.
So sticker packs is a big sticking point for a lot of people, right?
Oh,
I mean, people who are coming from Telegram or things, they really love their sticker packs.
Yeah, so Dimension also has a Telegram sticker pack importer. You punch in a Telegram URL and
interesting.
Yeah, it'll import the whole thing for you. Creates in the background a room that happens to have all the media uploaded to it.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, you can share.
So do you end up with a lot of rooms like in the way, or is it do you not join it?
It's all hidden behind the scenes.
Okay.
So
Cool.
Dimension has a little bot user that it uses to try and manage all this stuff.
Well, if I was using Telegram any more than to test it, then I would probably look into this. Cool. All right. So what else we got? So okay. So you talked about media. The media uploads. Does that depend on your other project, which is the media repo?
Yeah. So Dimension doesn't actually require the media repo. There is some benefits that the media repo does provide. I believe it's just matrix-media repo, although internally it's caused a bit of confusion.
Yeah.
So we've started calling it the shared media repository.
Wow. Yours is the shared media repository.
Yeah.
Okay.
Instead of just like the media repo, because it's hard to say which one you're talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, for the shared media repo, it has some additional APIs that make it a little bit easier to manage stuff like stickers, but it's not required. You can
So what other benefits does it offer that you're using your product?
Yeah, so the shared media repo offers deduplication across multiple home servers. So if you're like me and you happen to run, I don't know, a small collection of home servers, then you can deduplicate media across both of the entire federation for everything that's downloaded, as well as other uploads.
Well, how does addressing work then? Like, doesn't it need a MXC URL? How does that?
Yeah, so it still addresses them per server. It's just that it only stores one copy of the media and has multiple references, so you don't actually have to sort of, keep track of multiple files.
Cool.
Synapse by default, if you upload a file twice, it'll get 2 MXC URLs and you'll get 2 files on disk.
Okay. So, but with this, you would get, you'd still get 2 MXC URLs, but 1 file.
Correct.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I'm already getting to the stage where I might benefit from that, just because we have a situation in the office where at lunchtime, if people aren't fed within a certain period, they'll start posting the same macro images of dogs and hungry animals and things. So yeah, my tiny server's already getting filled up with that junk. So maybe I should look into that. Cool. All right. So one project of yours that I have used and enjoyed is the bot.js SDK.
Yes.
Because it's just so much easier to use for the use cases that I care about compared to the Matrix.js SDK. Like, you can just easily put message handlers on, which for 99% of use cases is pretty much all you want to do. Start it running, put the handler on. Why did you start that project? So
it started because of another thing called Voyager.
Okay.
So Voyager was the bot that sort of sits in rooms like HQ and waits for other people to post it.
I've seen it, yeah.
And then it joins them and creates a...
And there's a map, right? There's a crazed map.
It now crashes browsers reliably, so it's a bit of a big map. But yeah, over time, at around 2,000 rooms, it was starting to have some performance issues. It was running out of RAM, the bot just wasn't working because it was built off the JS SDK, which is what Riot uses in the background. And it turns out that the JS SDK is very much meant for client development. It handles a lot of like timeline handling and stuff like that. Yeah.
It fills in history and all that kind of stuff, but expensively. Yeah,
so within Voyager, in order to get about a savings of 1 gig of RAM, I swapped out the entire layer for something called a Matrix Lite client, which was just a thin wrapper over top of an HTTP library, and that was fine.
Great.
I used the server to sort of do a lot of the offloading of the load.
Yeah, sure.
Instead of having to do it on the client side.
Mm-hmm.
So after that was created, it seemed like a good idea to sort of make it general purpose, and so the JS bot SDK was sort of created out of that.
Okay.
Particularly for bridges like Halfshot's Discord bridge. So that bridge in particular uses the JS SDK under the hood,
Right.
and it uses some very, very old bridging SDKs that the Matrix Org Foundation still provides.
Right. Okay.
So,
I didn't know that.
yeah, it's a bit of an interesting architecture under the hood.
Yeah. So I thought it was all just Node SDK. Matrix App Service Node.
Yeah, so that App Service Node it actually uses App Service Bridge, which uses App Service Node, which uses the JS SDK.
Oh, I didn't know that's how
yeah.
far the dependencies.
So it goes pretty deep into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's spent quite a lot of time transferring over to the bot SDK instead, because even though it is the bot SDK, it also supports app services.
Yeah, I mean, bots and bridges in this context are, there's a pretty thin difference between the two.
Yeah.
So how can, but for example, with your bot SDK, I can't do, like, go get history, can I? I can't go get, like, walk back up the room or something.
Well, you can.
Yeah.
It's a little bit harder because you have to sort of do those requests manually, because it's meant for real-time data. So most bots only really care about what's going on now.
Okay.
So
sure.
So like the sync loop within the SDK doesn't actually care if it loses some messages, because chances are if it lost some messages, they were hours ago. So why would you respond to that command?
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so you're just expected to resend. All right, cool. All right, so Voyager. Voyager was actually the subject of Florian in Germany, like rewrote it in a sense, or at least he was heavily inspired by it for his PhD. You got any more information about that?
All I know is that it was trying to figure out the scalability of the network. To see like how well does Matrix scale when it gets up to 10,000, 100,000, 100 million rooms, that sort of idea, to see like what sorts of problems might show up and what the actual use of the Federation is. Like, because it's fine to say like, oh, there's 100,000 rooms, but are all of those rooms popular? What defines popular? So like it was a PhD to sort of explore that. I don't quite remember all of the conclusions of it, but I believe it was mostly positive. There are some growing pains that we identified, and
naturally.
I think they're filed as Matrix doc issues somewhere. So that we can fix them later in the spec.
I mean, so we don't, the Matrix Foundation don't release things like the graph of how popular rooms are or how widespread Federation is, but you could go and derive that because it's all just public. It's all just publicly federated. What have you worked on lately? I feel like we haven't talked about any of your new vector work at all, but people can kind of see that. Maybe we should focus on the other stuff. So, like, what other projects have you been doing?
Like personal projects and stuff? Yeah, so I've been working a lot in the OAuth space for Matrix OAuth.
What is that?
So it's a sort of thing that you can add to your server, or rather put next to your server, that allows people to log into their accounts for OAuth credentials. So things like GitHub and many other applications, you can sign in with Twitter, that sort of stuff. You click a button and it says, do you want to authorize this account to use, or do you want to authorize this application to use your account?
Cool.
And it tells you what it's going to do with it. So Matrix OAuth is that screen, basically. It's, the authorize button, what it's going to do with your account, that sort of stuff.
Is it built, can it be built into Riot Web? Can you have, like, a second screen of the login screen that's like, don't do all this, just here's my Twitter credential, let's go get my access token?
Well, it's a bit of a different one. So it's actually to allow your Matrix account to be used on other services. So it was created for the Alexa skill that I was working on, because the Alexa skill only works with OAuth. So in order to publish it onto their store, you need to be able to handle OAuth of some kind, because you only get that token sent to your application. You don't get a chance to actually prompt the user for login.
Naturally.
Because logging into Matrix is a bit complicated. You need username, password, home server URL, and possibly some other information.
And the Alexa is, it needs to be really linear. It needs to be exactly down the line of Amazon's. Cool. So wait, so does that mean that to use the Alexa skill, you need to verify out of bound?
So it's actually done within their app. But you tap a button within their app that says, this
Right.
skill requires authorization. You
Got it.
press that button, it opens up matrix OAuth in this case,
Cool.
and matrix OAuth asks you for all of the credential information because we don't have
Right.
it quite built into the spec yet, but once it is, that'll obviously improve.
Yeah.
And then it does a bunch of magic encoding sort of stuff, and then.
So with that done, what can you do with the Alexa skill?
So with the Alexa skill currently, you can only send a message.
Right.
But I could say, like, apologies for everybody out there, but like, hey Alexa, send a message to Ben.
Hey Alexa.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like you can do that sort of stuff, and
Okay.
it'll figure out like, oh, like who's Ben. It'll try and fuzzy match the rooms to figure out which
Send
Ben.
send a message?
Yeah.
Is it not going to interfere with, SMS and whatever else that you've got configured? How does it know?
So Alexa skills are a bit awkward that way. You do actually have to say like, the phrasing is a bit awkward. So you basically say, Alexa, please ask Matrix to send a message to Ben.
Oh, I see. Right.
Because the skill is called Matrix.
Yeah. Gotcha.
But either way, like it's a common thing across all of their skills. So quite a few people are used to that sort of stuff.
Once you're into it. To be honest, I haven't really gone very far with Alexa. Amazon APKs in general. Cool. What else have we got on our little list? Oh yeah, I just wrote a note like lots of TypeScript ?
Yeah.
So I'm pretty excited about TypeScript, but I'm not really developing every day, so I possibly don't have the viewpoint that you have. You seem pretty excited about TypeScript, though.
Yeah. Personally, I am not a fan of JavaScript.
Mm-hmm.
I find it one of the more irritating languages to use.
Okay.
TypeScript helps to at least alleviate some of that pain by giving us an option to actually define types. And, actually sort of validate that our code is going to work before we, send it out to whatever.
And also just debug a lot easier because there should be half the time it's a type error anyway. So you should get something. And you also get, especially in VS Code, you get a lot more prompts and you get close to IntelliSense, but maybe not quite that.
Yeah. So I use TypeScript in the bot SDK, even though it's called the JS bot SDK. But like it does ship a JS version for
Transplant.
I guess the legacy versions. I use it in the bot SDK. I use it in a lot of my bots and bridges that I write. Matrix OAuth, for instance, is written almost entirely in TypeScript.
Yeah, that's cool.
Molnier is written entirely in TypeScript.
Right. Okay. Molnier is the moderation tool.
Yeah, it's the moderation tooling for Matrix. So it's not just a bot; it's also Synapse anti-spam module.
Yep.
It's a feature within Riot, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Most people commonly associate with the bot though, because that's the
sure.
largest and easiest.
Well, and I mean, when they're getting banned, they're not interested in the exact infrastructure. They just know that some user has banned.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, I think we've gone through most of what we wanted to talk about. What else is on your mind? You've been in the UK for 2 weeks. You've been mostly talking about Canada.
Yes, of course.
How's your trip been?
It's been pretty good. Yeah, it's a different kind of cold.
It's the wet cold as opposed to the dry cold.
Yeah, so Alberta's a very, very dry place. We
Okay.
get very close to 0% humidity.
Right. Okay.
But here it's like 0 degrees Celsius and still quite cold.
Yeah, it's coldish, but it's just wet here. This is the way Northern Europe goes at this time of year.
Yeah.
It's not really
no
for me.
snow.
Well, yeah, I mean, people like snow. I guess it's pretty, but it also, screws up infrastructure and Anyway, I'm going to fix it. So. All right, I'm going to say thank you, Travis. Thank you, Matrix Live, and see you soon. Bye.